Rise and shine, you two," Granny called out to the sleepy children. "You both remind me of Dan the ox. He was just as lazy as you are now." The children sat up, curious. "What happened to him, Granny?" they asked. Let me tell you," Granny began with a twinkle in her eye. Dan the ox lived on a farm with his family. He had 3 strong brothers who were always busy. One brother helped everyone with their chores, another took care of anyone who was sick, and the third entertained everyone after a long day's work. But Dan was different. Dan never worked. Instead, he spent his days lying under the shade of trees, dozing behind the truck, or leaning against the farmhouse walls. All the other farm animals did their jobs diligently. The cow gave milk, the hen laid eggs, and the sheep provided wool. But lazy Dan did nothing. Because of his laziness, Dan became fat. His legs were weak, and his back grew so plump that he couldn't carry any weight. One day, Dan overheard the farmer talking to his wife. "Dan is too lazy," the farmer said with a sigh. "He doesn't work at all. I think I will have to sell him." Dan was shocked. He loved his family and the farm. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving. For the first time, he felt truly sad. He sat alone, thinking hard about what he could do to change his fate. Then, he had an idea. The next day, Dan called all the animals together and announced, "I'm organizing a race. The winner will get all my pocket money." All the animals were thrilled. The race was scheduled for a month later. From that day on, Dan began training. He started by carrying small loads of hay. Whenever he had free time, he jogged around the farm and helped his brothers with their work. He even began waking up early and worked late into the evening. Gradually, Dan's body changed. His muscles grew strong, and his back became firm and sturdy. Slowly but surely, lazy Dan was transforming into a hard-working, fit ox. Finally, the day of the race arrived. All the animals lined up at the starting line, ready and excited. Dan joined them too. Many animals were surprised to see Dan there. After all, they still remembered him as the laziest ox on the farm. But no one said a word. "Ready, steady, go!" shouted the farmer. The animals took off running. At first, Dan lagged behind. But he didn't give up. He pushed himself harder and soon overtook the sheep. He began to sweat, but he kept going. Next, he passed the cow and then the buffalo. Dan's heart pounded, but he remembered his goal: to stay on the farm with his family. With one final push, he ran faster than ever and overtook the horse. At last, Dan crossed the finish line first. He had won. Though he had promised to give away his pocket money, he did so gladly and shared sweets with everyone. The farmer was so impressed that he praised Dan for his incredible hard work and determination. Dan was overjoyed, not only because he had won, but because he knew he could stay with his family forever. From that day on, Dan was no longer lazy. He became one of the most helpful animals on the farm. Yay! Dan is a winner. Granny clapped her hands. And you two can be winners too if you work hard. Now, come on, we have a lot to do today. But Granny, one of the children said, why should we be polite to Mr. Johann, the milkman? You saw us. We didn't even open the door for him this morning. Granny looked serious. Mr. Johann is a hard-working man. You should respect every person who works hard.